always thinking critically about how we do things and how we should be doing things, I think, is really beneficial.
You're listening to the Architect My Life podcast, a show dedicated to empowering women architects and designers to achieve business growth, financial freedom, and health and wellness. I'm Shlachter, your host and CEO of MGS Global Group. Our company provides Revit, ArchiCAD, and CAD drafting services to busy architects and design firm owners. MGS Global started as a part-time gig when I was a new mom, but it has now grown into a thriving business that provides drafting support to creatives, helping everyone maintain a healthy work-life balance. This podcast is proudly presented by MGS Global Group. Now let's dive into this episode. Hi everyone, our guest this week is Erica Spayd of Prose Architecture. Erica is the President of Prose Architecture, a firm focused on telling brand stories through design. She previously designed stores in-house for J.Crew, Madewell, and most recently, Warby Parker, where she and her team designed and built over 120 stores over a 4-year span. Eager to help new brands leave their brick-and-mortar mark, and with a desire for greater flexibility and better work-life harmony, Erica launched Prose in 2023. Erica lives in New Jersey and loves a good shopping mall. In her free time, she enjoys reading, spending time with her family, and eating ice cream. Her kids think you should know that her favorite construction vehicle is a concrete truck. I'm so thrilled to talk to her today. Welcome to the show, Erica.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, interesting story. We actually met in Facebook 2 years ago, right?
We did.
Yeah.
Yes. Was it just 2 years ago?
Or 3? When did COVID
It might
happen?
have been, I don't know. It was during COVID for sure.
Yeah.
I don't remember when exactly.
Yeah, but I'm forever grateful to Erica. I was working on a proposal for this huge opportunity for the company, and I was struggling to find people, and Erica was so kind to give me all the information and get on a call with me and gave me so much knowledge, which you always do, providing a lot of knowledge for everyone. And 3 years later, I got the contract because of your help too, Erica. You have a lot of knowledge, and we can talk about that later on when we talk about her new exciting projects. So, Erica, tell me about a person or an experience in your childhood that prompted you, or that made you want to do architecture.
Oh, an experience in my childhood. So I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, and we lived with my grandparents. It was their house. It was a 2-family house. And, my parents had been saving up money to buy a house of their own. And, when they saved up enough money, they told my mom's parents, my grandparents who we lived with, hey, we're going to start looking for a house. We're going to move out. And my grandparents said, no, don't do that. Buy a house at the Cape on Cape Cod that we can all use and enjoy during the summertime, and then just stay living here. And so that's what my parents did. So they bought a house in a fairly new development on Cape Cod, and I was about 11 at the time, and their house was one of the earlier houses in this development. So we would go down on the weekends and then during the summer, and basically we were surrounded by a construction site. And on the weekends there were no workers there, and there were also no people. Like there were really maybe, less than a dozen houses in this development that were occupied. And so I would ride my bike around and go onto the job sites. And, it's all like 1 or 2 story wood frame residences, single family residences. But I was just so curious. And, each week we'd see the progress, but I would just go kind of explore by myself, and I guess it was trespassing. Shh, don't tell anyone. I didn't take anything. I didn't break anything. I was just really interested in and fascinated by the tools and the framing and the different phases of construction. And that kind of stuck with me as a pastime that got me through, a lot of weekends and a couple quiet summers. And I developed an appreciation for kind of how things are built and how they go together. So that's my story.
This is exactly why I ask about your childhood memory, because it's when you're a child, there's a lot of exciting things. You don't have a lot of responsibility. That's when you really form the things that you want, and you still have time for hobbies, right? So that's a great story. Erica just launched her firm Prose Architecture, but can you tell us about what led you to Prose Architecture and your career? Like why you decided to really take the plunge?
Yeah. So I've spent most of my career, really pretty much all of it, working in retail. Started out, I guess, 18 years ago. I'm going to have to check that math. Working for a firm that specialized in retail work, and then later on went to work on the client side for a couple of retailers. And I think that, the brands that I've worked with all had really strong brand identities, really strong stories. So, and then I guess the kind of other factor for me is that before I decided to study architecture, I got an undergraduate degree in English. So I really like writing, I really like reading, I really like storytelling. And I ended up working for these really incredible brands, J. Crew, Madewell, Warby Parker, that have these really incredible brand identities, really incredible stories. And so when I decided to go out on my own, I think a lot of people, a lot of architects, when they launch their own firm, they transition from something into single family residential. And even though I love sneaking around residential job sites, it's not actually my professional expertise. And so I decided to focus on both my love of branded environments and storytelling and pull those together as prose architecture. Timing wise, this was something I was very close to doing actually about 5 years ago when I was pregnant with my younger son. And though I didn't have the name yet, and I think if I had done it 5 years ago, I would have done I'll just do residential path, which I'm so glad I didn't. Because it's just not for me. I respect people who do residential, but it's just not where my experience is. I was very close to doing it then. And Warby Parker had reached out to me when I was very pregnant. And I ended up interviewing, I was like 37, 38 weeks pregnant and told them, hey, I'm going to take maternity leave and, we'll see what happens. And they waited for me and held the position for me. And so I went there and stayed there for just over 4 years. But, my younger one is now almost 5. My older one is almost 7. And I found myself wanting something different out of my job, over the last 6-7 months or so. And so I made the decision to finally make the leap.
Obviously, there's a reason why they waited for you. You were able to roll out how many Warby Parkers?
We, during my time there, I think we opened about 125 stores. And that included, 2020, which, saw pretty much everything go on pause. So, that was a really kind of quiet year. But in spite of that, 125 stores over 4 years.
Every time I go see a Warby Parker, I'm like, I know the person who did that, right? It's like, yeah, Erica and team did that. Anyway, so your firm's name is Prose Architecture. It implies a focus on storytelling. So how do you incorporate your clients' stories and aspirations into your architecture design? Do you have like clients now, or are you working on proposals that you're trying to build the storytelling aspect of it?
So both. And really, I think the approach is very different depending on if they are kind of an established brand or a newer brand, right? Some newer brands they maybe haven't necessarily told their story yet, at least not in kind of a physical form or an offline form, right? Their story exists on websites and, in other kind of marketing avenues, but not really in the physical space. So I think it's about the story that they want to tell, right? And the customer that they want to connect with. And, we work to really learn about what that story is and how we can present something in a physical retail space that resonates, that conveys their story, that conveys the idea, the people, the themes, the plot.
So as you continue to build your firm or starting to build your firm, What principles and values from your retail experience influence your decision-making process as a person who's been in retail and it's kind of corporate, right? So your experience is completely different from the regular residential work, which is quite interesting. So how does that translate to working on your own?
That's a really good question. I mean, it feels like there's, how do I word this? Obviously the corporate realm and certainly, over the past couple of years working for a public company and being, you know, um, a very small kind of startup firm, feel like they're worlds apart. But I think that working in the corporate environment and seeing kind of a lot of what works and what doesn't has really helped inform how I want to run my business. I think that, in consumer goods, there's a lot of emphasis on growth, for example. And growth is defined kind of as, right, increased revenue year over year, not necessarily increased profits year over year, right? And, as a small business owner who doesn't have, private equity or venture capital funding, the emphasis, the focus has to be on profit from a business perspective, because that means that, there's food on my table. And I think just some other examples, I think in the corporate world, there's a lot of emphasis on process, right? And in the corporate world, I think that maybe means or has grown to mean something different. There's a lot of decision making by committee. I feel like there's increasingly maybe less autonomy, especially for more junior folks. And process, I think, has become really kind of clunky, right? And compared to when maybe I first started at J. Crew, we didn't have a lot of documented processes, but everyone knew what to do, who to go to, and how to tie things together. And I think the best processes, I mean, they should be documented, to be clear. I'm not advocating for not documenting processes, but the best processes should not feel like extra work. They should come naturally. They should flow. And so I hope that as I grow my business and grow my team, that I can develop processes that do not feel like work, that come naturally. I'm not a micromanager. I don't want to have, the entire company in the room to make every decision. I want to empower people to make decisions on their own. And if they make the wrong decision, that's okay too, right? Like I think we need to show each other grace. That's how we learn. So that was a lot. I just rambled a lot.
No, but I can totally empathize and relate because I only worked in small mom and pops, and the biggest firm that I've worked for were like 20 people, and there was no process. And now when I became an entrepreneur, I wish I had that kind of experience like you have to be able to scale. Right now, we're almost at 30 employees at the company. And I wish that I knew exactly what you know now when I was starting about process. But at the same time, what you said about no autonomy. Remember, we talked 2 weeks ago. I said I went to Switzerland in a publicly traded company, and all our days were filled with meetings and meetings and meetings, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of committees. So now I understand what you mean by there's no autonomy and the process is so clunky. But you have best of both worlds.
Right.
Because it's kind of like having a master's degree without really having a master's degree, right? Working for these big companies.
In a way, yeah. I mean, I've never studied business, but I think the exposure that you get, working for these big corporations, just to different financial metrics, different processes, how different companies do things. And then also, as an employee of those companies, you're talking to people in similar roles at other companies and comparing notes, right? Like that becomes part of your network, but you're also learning from others kind of what works and what doesn't. So it does really help build a very good foundation for starting a business and having a vision about how you want to operate that business.
That's great. So excited, Erica, and I'm really happy for you.
Thank you.
So you talk about creativity and design thinking, but let's talk about design thinking. A lot of people are really using design thinking methodologies in decision making process, creativity, and just leadership and everything in their lives. So can you tell the audience what design thinking is for people who don't know?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I don't know if this is the correct definition, but to me, it's just taking a creative approach that asks questions first, right? So, in architecture school, you're given a program, right? And you design to the program, and you kind of pick apart the program and ask about priorities and adjacencies and whatever. So apply that thinking to anything, right? You're effectively identifying the problems, right, that could arise from potential solutions and designing around all of it. And so it's like clicking down into, a long series of if this, then that, right? To make sure you're coming up with the best solution for any problem. So I think, obviously when we're designing a building or designing an interior space, right, that's what we're trained to do. But to take that to, things outside of what we traditionally consider design, right, to take it to how we invoice, how we create templates, how we design processes for our team members, and how we adapt those, right? Because nothing is static. Things change over time, needs change over time. And so always thinking critically about how we do things and how we should be doing things, I think, is really beneficial. It's really all about creative problem solving, but to me, that starts with asking the right questions.
So you mentioned that you also use creative process and design thinking in marketing, online presence. Yeah. Can you explain that a little bit?
So I'm going to be honest. I haven't done a ton of marketing yet. I've been basically building my client base through pretty direct channels. I have a pretty big network within the retail community. So right now I've been leveraging that, and that's been getting me, enough work to get started. But I think some other kind of areas of sort of like business operations, something like invoicing, right? Every accountant wants you to use QuickBooks, right? So you're, okay, I'm just going to do it. I'll use QuickBooks. But QuickBooks doesn't make pretty invoices. And I want my invoices to align with sort of my brand aesthetic. And so taking a design thinking approach to creating some type of template that maybe not only creates this sort of static, pretty invoice, but that can track the invoices for not only that project, but all of your projects, right? So that you're getting an accurate read of what's been invoiced, what's been paid, what's outstanding, what's overdue, right? That is the type of problem that could benefit from design thinking. You also need Excel skills or Google Sheet skills or whatever other skills. Luckily, I have an accountant in the home, my husband, who's very good at that and, helped teach me some of the formulas. But I think just the eagerness to learn, asking the questions and creating something that's going to work for you, right? It's the kind of same approach you take to a design and making it work for your client.
See, a lot of people think that architects and creatives are bad business people, but I think if they use design thinking and their creativity, we can really make things work. It's just we're just a little shy and maybe the mindset, right? But if we really use our brain and our design thinking skills, we could become very financially successful firm owners.
Yes, 100%. I do think that I've certainly met this type of architect in my career. The one who just doesn't want to do that. They only want to design buildings, right? And to them, design is really strictly about buildings, right? They don't want to think about business or systems or whatever in that way. And I mean, look, that's their right. Everyone wants to do the job they want to do, right? If that is your view of architecture of design, then there are certainly roles out there for you. But, for people who want to run a successful business, I think having a design background puts you at an advantage if you're willing to tap into it. I know a lot of architects say, oh, they don't teach us enough about business in school. And maybe that's true. But I think we can also push ourselves to bring our creativity to how we operate. And, pull in the right resources, right? Leverage the right relationships to get the answers you need to set up the systems you want in the way that you want.
I was watching this YouTube video of the founder of Airbnb, Brian Chesky, I think is his name. He was an industrial design student, and because of his problem solving and he was very resourceful, Airbnb started from an air mattress concept because he couldn't afford to pay rent. And look where he is now. And he said the best entrepreneur should be the creatives,
Yeah.
because we really know how to solve problems. So maybe we can do that.
Yes.
Become like an Airbnb. No, just kidding. You talk about intentional firm scaling. Can you briefly define what being intentional means in terms of scaling your firm? Like, what if you get an opportunity that will require you to scale fast? So is that intentional or not intentional? Like, yeah, I want to understand that concept.
If it is an opportunity, yeah, I would say every client relationship, every brand we work with is going to bring different things to the table, right? Just the way, any architecture firm that someone considers hiring is also going to bring different things to the table, right? So, there's probably a certain type of client that I would look at based on any number of factors, right? How much creativity they need if they're launching a new concept versus just kind of rolling something out sort of cookie cutter. If they have a history of being a good partner who communicates well and is clear and respects boundaries. There are any number of factors that you could look at and say, yeah, that account, that client, that project is worth hiring fast to be able to support. And then similarly, there are probably some clients and projects that you could look at and say, nope, I'm happy being at the size we're at, and that work does not add the value that would make that risk of fast growth worth the potential reward. So it is intentional depending on the client.
I think everybody should have that same mindset. We get sucked into just being very grateful to have people paying us at the risk of our mental health. That happens a lot in our business. People just take the clients because, they need cash flow, but then it's
right.
People get sick. I actually know people having PTSD when they just check their phones from a client text. It's crazy, right?
Don't put your phone in your bedroom. Plug it in the kitchen overnight.
Yeah, that's true. I actually tried doing that, but I have a team overseas.
Yes. No, harder for some than others.
So I'm huge on business development, and well, I do business development, but now my focus is in digital marketing. Have you thought about your digital marketing strategies for Prose, and what are you doing to attract potential business?
I have thought about it. I haven't taken a ton of action yet, but yeah, in general, I think because most of our clients are businesses, right? LinkedIn seems to be the best platform for us to kind of promote our business and connect with clients. And even though we haven't done a lot of posting just yet, I regularly go on there and send connection requests to, people maybe I don't know, but who we have mutual connections in common, who might be starting new roles at younger retail companies, just to make that connection and introduce myself and kind of leave it at that. I'm not really, there's no pitch, there's no hard sell. It's just, hey, wanted to connect. We're Prose Architecture. This is what we're about. Give us a follow. Reach out if you have any questions, if you need anything. And that's kind of it. So it's been kind of more of I would say, a low-key strategy for right now. Over time, as we kind of get a few clients sort of fully onboarded and are able to invest in team members and in potentially, consultants that could do some of that, because I feel like social media is a full-time job on its own, right? Like, and my energy needs to be focused elsewhere right now. But I think posting on LinkedIn, I think further down the road, as we have projects nearing completion or at completion, Instagram could be very good for us. YouTube, although I'm not super comfortable with video, so that's maybe something I need to work on and overcome at a later time. And then I really like to write. I would like to launch a blog. I've done one blog post. I haven't gotten back to it, but it's something that I do want to implement.
Actually, I've been blogging a lot, and because I'm blogging, people reach out to me. I got a lot of inbounds, but when I blog, I don't sell. I provide value, like the best top 10 rendering tips or Revit shortcuts that are not being utilized.
Yeah.
Because that's how you get inbounds. Like architects will say, "Oh, I don't use these Revit skills or tips or
Hmm.
tools." So that's one thing that a lot of architects kind of neglect. It's a very cheap way to market your services because you're not paying for advertising,
Right.
right? But being in retail is actually very beneficial, especially you've been in the retail business for our space for 18 years, and it's very small. It's a very small industry, right? And developing relationships, even like your junior staff probably are senior in another company, so they
Yeah.
can potentially give you work because they were your former employees or juniors.
Right. Well, or just, there is some of that, but then also like, former coworkers who were in construction, who were in real estate, who were in procurement, right? They've all gone to other companies too. And then there's also some that are still at the same companies, right? And even that network of people who I have actually personally worked with is quite big and, certainly big enough to get things started, which is great.
Yeah, I'm not worried about you, Erica.
Thanks.
Um, so this is one of my favorite questions. What is your biggest mistake that turned into a blessing or a lesson
Oh
in your
gosh.
career? I have one, but I want to learn from you.
That's a really tough question.
We can come back to that later.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so what's your favorite part of being an entrepreneur? Like you're 2 months in, right?
Yeah, two
What
and a
is
half.
like the
Yeah.
absolute favorite thing that you're enjoying right now?
I mean, honestly, I really like there's a lot I'm enjoying, by the way. I really like being able to make my own schedule, and it's been it's been shockingly easy. I had this fear before I did this that it would be really hard to motivate myself to sit down at the desk and work. Um, but it's not, I'm excited to do my work every day and things are different every day, right? Some days you're focused more on kind of accounting and business things. Some days you're focused on creating templates and Revit and sort of, kind of more technical things. And some days you're just focused on creative work, right? And then, to a certain degree, you kind of get to choose, right? Like not, I would describe myself as sort of a flow type worker, right? Like I wake up in the morning and I'm feeling a certain way and I'm like, I want to do something like analytical today, or I want to do something creative today, right? And generally I'm able to sort of pivot, right? Knowing that, I'll have time and my day is sort of blocked out and I don't have a ton of meetings, where
Yes.
I can focus where my energy is driving me and get a lot done and be really productive. So I love that. And I'm trying to think, I mean, there's a lot. I in a weird way, I miss commuting just because it was active, right? Like you're walking, you're riding a bike, but I force myself to run my local errands on my bike or by foot, so that I'm still getting my exercise and going out and about. But um, yeah, I can't really say there's anything I don't like about it at this point. It's fun.
When I first quit my job and started as an entrepreneur, I was so poor, but I was the happiest
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wasn't making any money, but I was so happy I got my time back.
Yeah.
Right? I burnt out and I had really a bad experience with my bosses. Not me and the boss, but just the whole burnout and our industry of just glorifying overwork and no rest.
Yeah.
So it felt really good. And it's perfect for you because you have young kids. You can really spend time with them. You're not
Yeah.
missing a lot of, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it requires a lot of time to take the kids to school, sports, and all that.
Yeah. No, it's been great. I mean, since COVID, I had been really making time for that anyway, even as an employee. COVID was kind of a big wake up call for my husband and I, and just how little time we were spending with our kids. I mean, they were 3 and 1 when COVID started, and they were both in daycare for a full day every day. And, we had a babysitter picking them up from daycare and feeding them dinner and getting them ready for bed a couple nights a week. We were both commuting in the city 5 days a week. That all stopped, and all of a sudden we're eating dinner together every night as a family. And I was like, yeah, we're never going back. We're never going back to that. So even when they opened up the office again and I was commuting in, I was going in early and then leaving early enough to be able to eat dinner with my kids, to be able to pick them up, to be able to do, baseball and soccer and all the other things that they're into. So
Funny that you mentioned that. I was sitting at the table with my son, and I've gotten really busy and everyone's busy. My daughter, like, it's kind of like we're just working a lot and kids are growing up and they have a lot more homework. And we were sitting and he's like, Mom, I kind of miss the COVID times when we could just like hang out and do nothing and talk. And I kind of forgot about that, but it was a really special time when we got to bond with the family and we're not rushing and driving and over scheduling everyone, right?
yeah.
So now, who are your ideal clients? A lot of people will be listening to the podcast. What type of clients are you looking for in
Yeah.
general?
So I'm looking
Put it out
for,
there.
all right, let's do it.
Yes.
Direct to consumer brands who have no stores but want to open stores, or who maybe have a few stores but haven't really mastered the kind of design and build out process, who feel like there's a lot of room for improvement in what they're doing. And then also, direct to consumer brands who are sort of, heritage brands who know who they are and know what they're about, and maybe have, 100 stores, couple hundred stores, but who have a strong brand identity and want to maintain that and continue that through remodels and new store openings and relocations, and who appreciate an architect who can communicate clearly and effectively and efficiently and help get their projects done.
Can you name a few brands you want to work with? Like the 100,
Oh, uh,
we'll tag them.
yeah. Oh my gosh, really?
Yes, why not? Because there are
Um,
brands that are 50. Are you looking for like the 50-person brand, like small cafes that are at 50, or like a Duck Donuts? I think they're like at 200 now. I don't know. Like, can you
right.
name brands? You never
Yeah,
know.
I mean, I can definitely name some brands. So, oh gosh, now I'm like frozen.
Top three. Top three.
Okay. So, let's see. There's a company called Studs that's a piercing studio that seems like kind of a fun concept. Really really cute, kind of clean, simple interior finishes. Cool brand. I like the play on words, right? Studs, but like earring studs, and would love to do work with them.
How many stores do they have now?
I don't know off the top of my head. Less than 100, I think for sure.
Okay.
Possibly less than 50. Who else? I just bought some t-shirts from Mott and Bow, which they don't have any stores, but these t-shirts are the softest, most like perfect fit t-shirt that I've bought in a long time. So I hope they open stores and I hope I get to work with them. Uh, Bombas socks. I don't know if you've worn their socks. I We
I'm
only
a
wear their
fan.
socks in my
Yeah.
house, and I actually reached out to someone on their team years ago saying like, "Hey, do you think you're going to be opening stores? I want to work for you." Um, that still is true. I don't believe they have any stores. I would love for them to open stores, even if they wanted a kiosk or a cart. I would love to design it. I would love
Or
to
a
work with
fixture
them.
drop.
Yeah, like I'm just a huge fan of their socks. I like their mission, I like their purpose, but also their socks are super comfortable.
That's my default gift for my husband every year.
Yeah.
It's so easy. Get him Bombas. Like, yeah, I love Bombas too.
And then I'll throw one more out there, and they have plenty of stores, but just a company I really respect and love, Patagonia. Like I would love to work for Patagonia. Talk about mission-driven company. They take it all the way in terms of kind of what they do to give back, and I would love to work with them.
Yeah, similar to Bombas, they also give back a portion of their proceeds to who do they give back
National
to?
Parks, I believe, is their kind of big philanthropic partner. But yeah.
Okay, let's see what happens, Erica. I'm going to put that in the show notes. We're all starting out, right? Like we got to just manifest.
Yes.
So, who's Erica outside of Prose Architecture?
Oh, that's a fun question. I am, gosh, like, am I supposed to talk about my hobbies or like?
Yeah, pickleball. Hello.
Yeah. I'm fairly new to pickleball. I've played 3 times at this point, but I do really like it. It's a lot of fun. I really like to cook when no one else is at home. I prefer them to leave, and I put on some music, and it's an experience, and there's no kids running through the kitchen. I hope that they enjoy cooking with me someday. I also hope that they enjoy eating the food I make someday. They're very picky at this point in time, but love to cook. One of my favorite things to make is pizza. I have never lived in Connecticut, but I'm a firm believer that New Haven style pizza is the best. And that's what we make at home, and we really like it. I used to be like super into sports, like watching sports, but I don't have time for that anymore. I watch my kids play sports. I don't watch professional sports very much anymore, but I like sports a lot. So maybe that's something that will come back. I like listening to music. I love karaoke. Love karaoke.
We can get along.
Yes.
Filipino and the karaoke. It's
I know.
crazy.
Yes, my best friend's stepmom is Filipino, and I think they have like 2 or 3 karaoke machines in their house. And why do you need 2?
Yeah, I have a microphone up here. Yeah.
Yeah. I like riding my bike.
Do you have a road bike or a mountain bike or a hybrid?
It's a hybrid bike. Yeah. I guess I have 2 bikes technically right now. I had a folding bike for when I was commuting into the city, because I would bring that with me and then just ride around the city. And it folds up so you can bring it on the train without getting a hard time from the conductor. But now that I'm not going into the city anymore, I bought a hybrid bike. And yeah, I like it. I just, go out. And like I said, anything that's kind of within 3 miles of my house, I try to ride my bike there. If it's super
rain
close,
or shine and snow?
Probably not snow, but rain. I don't mind riding in rain. But yeah, just to get out and move. I think, for now anyway, I'm in a home office, so you really, you get achy if you just sit there all day, right? You got to get up.
Yeah.
You got to get up and go out and about. So
I hear you. I actually started working on my treadmill because like I have meetings and I'm like, this is not cool. I don't have like a 23-year-old metabolism, Like you can just sit and not get fat.
My joints just get achy. Like my hips are like I feel like I have arthritis or something if I don't like do something active for a few days in a row. So like I really try to, plan out my week to be like, all right, these are the errands I need to run. I'm going to ride my bike here this day and walk here that day and whatever, and just get out for a little bit during the day to do
now
that.
It's perfect. The weather's great. So one last question. Where do you see Prose Architecture in 3 years?
I'll tell you where I'd like to see it.
Okay.
I would love for us to have 5 clients that, for whom we're doing at least 10 projects a year. If we have 5 clients with 10 projects a year each, we're in really good shape. And in order to achieve that, we're probably a team of, I'd say kind of somewhere between 5 and 7 people. But yeah, that's where I'd love to see us.
Thank you so much, Erica. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. Thank you.
That was Erica Spayd of Prose Architecture. Thanks for listening to this episode of Architect My Life, a podcast brought to you by MGS Global Group. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to add to the conversation through your own experiences, I encourage you to be a guest in one of our upcoming episodes. Visit architectmylife.com to apply and learn how. I firmly believe that a strong community drives change and fosters success. If you'd like to be part of this community, join the All Women Architect My Life Facebook group. Please take a moment to review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks again for listening. I'm Shlachter. Until next time.